2019 was a fantastic year for movies. It saw the release of films such as Avengers Endgame, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Uncut Gems, Ford v Ferrari, Joker, Midsommar, and countless others. Amidst standalone successes and franchise films, it's easy for the diamonds in the rough of independent cinema to be excluded from the conversation. Hi, and welcome to Studio Cinema Saturday, the show where we review films old and new, the ones that you don't like and the ones that you do. I'm your host, Dalton, and today we're going to be reviewing the 2019 fantasy horror film, The Lighthouse, directed by Robert Eggers. Initially, Robert Pattinson turned down a pitch for a different film by Eggers, deeming it not weird enough, but lo and behold, he got his weird film after all. Willem Dafoe, on the other hand, was a huge fan of The Witch, like myself, and reached out to Robert Eggers personally about this film. The Lighthouse might possibly be one of my favorite films of all time. I think what might attribute some of my liking of the film is it reminds me of my first job and the relationship that I have with my boss, weirdly enough. I remember sitting down to watch a film in 2019 and scrolling through Amazon Prime Video until I came across this monochromatic image of a lighthouse. However, nothing could have prepared me for the journey I was about to embark on with these two wikis. When discussing the film, there are a plethora of elements to praise. There's the masterfully composed and block cinematography of Jarin Blaschke, the hypnotic yet ominous score by Mark Corvin, and last but most certainly not least, the tremendous acting chops of Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. These roles are definitely two of their best. To give a brief background on the film, it was inspired by a Welsh legend of two wickies named Thomas who man the Smalls Lighthouse. One of them dies in an accident and the other man builds a coffin for his body. Naturally, he ties the coffin to the lighthouse, but heavy wind breaks it open, making it appear as if the deceased wickie is waving at him, which causes him to go mad. True story. Probably. So, for my spoiler-free crowd, do I recommend you watch this film? If you're the type that enjoys a slow burn psychological thrill with incredible performances, stunning visuals, and a well-written narrative with twists, absolutely, this film is for you. Okay, are they gone? Now that it's just me and the film geeks, let's talk about masturbation, mermaids, and maritime themes. The film opens with the two wickies sailing toward an island with a lighthouse. For the first 10 minutes of the film, they really don't say anything to one another. However, when the two make their lodgings, Thomas pisses in a chamber pot and farts to the tune he's whistling on his way out. This is a visual metaphor for how Thomas is going to shit on Winslow for the remainder of the film.
Fortnite.
The chemistry between these two is electric. Absolute lightning in a bottle.
What? That's what I mean!
Thomas is a former sailor and the overbearing superior officer that takes every opportunity to scold Winslow for the performance of his duties and remind him that he's the only one who tends to the light. Winslow, on the other hand, is the younger wickie that's defiant in the face of authority, who also has a mysterious past. In one of their conversations, he reveals that he's a timberman from Canada that's looking to start over and build a life for himself. Not only that, over the course of the film, Winslow starts to develop an obsession for the lighthouse, even after he begins hallucinating about sirens as well as sees a tentacle monster that drips jism. Their problematic relationship is best encapsulated in scenes where Thomas tells Winslow he wants every nail in the lighthouse to shine like a sperm whale's pecker, and the "you're fond of me lobster" scene.
You're fond of me lobster, ain't you?
Another notable component of this production is the rich, memorable dialogue that stays with you long after you've watched the film. Lines such as,
"Bad luck to kill a seabird, swamp dog. Hark! Hark! Triton! Woo! Life gets out! Why'd you spill your beans?"
are engraved into my mind. Speaking of Winslow's beans, in one of their drunken conversations, he reveals to Thomas Wake that his real name is Thomas Howard, and that Ephraim Winslow is the name of a superior he let get crushed by logs when he worked as a timberman, which serves as a shocking plot twist in the third act. However, it should be noted that Thomas Howard isn't our only unreliable main character, as Thomas Wake gaslights his fellow man and lies about a multitude of things. These include the story of how he lost his leg, lying about how long it's been since they missed the boat, and claiming that Winslow was the one that chased him around with the axe whenever the audience saw that it was truly himself. This is a film I could probably spend more than one video analyzing, so I'm going to sum things up by highlighting some of my favorite scenes and plot points, mention some notable technical aspects like the cinematography and the sound design, and score the film. If you've seen the film, you know there's a seagull that continuously antagonizes Winslow, and around the halfway point he just simply grabs a hold of it and absolutely obliterates it against a piece of concrete. Not only is it a shocking scene due to it being a violent murder of an animal, but also because Thomas tells Winslow that the souls of dead sailors reside in seagulls. Winslow acquiesces to this bad omen, which is seemingly responsible for everything that goes awry for the remainder of the film. Another interesting detail to grapple with is the fact that the seagull is missing its left eye. The entire reason we have a story is because Thomas supposedly lost his last assistant Wiki after he went mad from seeing visions of sirens and merfolk. Later in the film, we see Winslow pull a crab cage out of the water, revealing a deteriorated human head that's missing its left eye. Coincidence? I think not. As for my other favorite scenes, I truly love any scene where they're getting drunk. I love when they go around singing shanties and dancing around the boarding house before we hard cut to them slow dancing, followed by them erupting into this fist fight. Apparently this was improv, and both Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson instinctually grabbed each other's lighthouses in that moment. And last but most certainly not least, the final 15 minutes of the film. Thomas Howard, or Winslow, whatever you want to call him, introduces us to some new insults, proceeds to beat Thomas Wake into submission, and forces him to walk on all fours and bark like a dog before burying him alive. If this film proves anything, it's that Winslow is a kinky guy. But before Winslow can get to the light, Thomas emerges from the grave and strikes Winslow with an axe. However, after being completely over Thomas's shit, having stayed with the nut longer than the initial 4 weeks, Winslow swiftly buries the axe in his head, an event that is foreshadowed earlier in the film. This brings us to our final scene in which Winslow finally makes it to the light. He approaches it slowly and clasps it with both hands. He attempts to harness its primordial power. However, due to being a mere mortal man and because he's been damned by Thomas, Winslow is unable to withstand the light and is sent tumbling down the spiraling stairs of the structure. The last shot of the film depicts Winslow as Thomas prophesizes earlier in the film.
But a blasted bloody film now, a nothing for the harpies and the souls of dead sailors to peck and claw and feed upon, only to be lapped up and swallowed by the infinite waters of the dread emperor himself.
This moment is also a reference to Greek mythology, in which Prometheus steals fire from the gods, only to face the eternal punishment of being pecked to death by eagles. Now, aside from the performances and the plot itself, I really enjoyed the cinematography. If ever there was a film that embodied the phrase, "every frame a painting," it would be The Lighthouse. It was shot on black and white Kodak film and Baltar lenses from the 1930s and 40s. Additionally, custom filters were utilized to emulate early 1900s orthochromatic film stock. This particular film is sensitive to ultraviolet blue and green light, but not red, lending to the immense texture of the picture, especially on the face. The cinematography has been described as being photographic, especially in shots as this where the characters are simply staring down the barrel of the camera. Robert Eggers has also mentioned that he was influenced by the tonal dreaminess of Bela Tarr, Ingmar Bergman's camera language, and the hard-cut, bold montages of Eisenstein. It appears I have nothing left to do but score the film. Because I'm a sucker for slow burn auteur horror films, and because this particular movie is a technical and literary marvel executed to the highest degree, I give The Lighthouse 9 monkey pumps out of 10. And that concludes this episode of Studio Cinema Saturday. If you enjoyed, please drop a like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below of your favorite line from The Lighthouse. Also, be sure to check out our other content. We make short films and have reviewed countless other movies and television shows here on the channel, so go give those videos a watch. And as always, we'll see you in the next one.